And I did want to mention, one person, there was this yogi instructor that was like, oh, wow, they just like got this person for eye candy. Like he's just strutting around shirtless. And I was like, oh, wait, I see where they got him. And I got to say, the costume designer didn't do a really good job, or you were just, working for budget because he basically had no costume during that entire scene.
So, okay, that was actually an optional scene, right?
If I had a body like that, I would put that in every movie as well. So I completely understand. Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watch Our Pass. Today I'm talking to Hamza Zaman, the writer, director, and star, and his wife Chelsea Roth, the producer and costume designer of The Institute, which is coming to Blu-ray, DVD, and all digital and on-demand platforms on March 22nd, 2022. We're going to talk to them right now, and while you're watching, if you can like and subscribe to this channel, that would be fantastic. That helps me out a lot. Thank you. Hey Hamza, hey Chelsea.
Hey David, how are you?
Doing well, how are you?
I'm good.
So thanks so much for joining me. This is Hamza Zaman and Chelsea Roth talking about The Institute, which is coming to Blu-ray, DVD, digital, and on-demand platforms on March 22nd, 2022. It is kind of a retreat escape movie that would be lovely, except for some of the horrible things that are happening in the film. It's a nice kind of reminder of vacation, but then also a reminder of why we don't want to take those. So thank you so much for joining me.
It's our pleasure. Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having us.
Of course. So I guess the first question is, this felt like there could be some, I don't know, aspects of very personal conflicts in it. And I know you wrote it. Was this based on your own experiences, based on just kind of things you are worried about? Like, I don't know. This feels like there could be a very personal aspect to this story. And you are also free not to answer this. If you do not want to, I will not be offended at all. But this did feel like a story where I'm like, I wonder if there is something else in this that is inspiring this whole ordeal.
Yeah. Well, like living with a writer is interesting, because everything
That's an understatement.
because everything, like that you're going through kind of like real or imagined just like kind of shows up, like
it was exploited.
Like we were very, very fortunate. I actually had 2 children within the course of this like pre-production to distribution. So, but like we were talking about it like when he was writing the script and like talking to other people like other friends and like so it didn't so much apply to us personally, thankfully, but like it was definitely something that like was coming up and
yeah. I mean, there's some elements that are like deeply personal, where just the topic of reproduction wasn't something I had ever written about, before obviously, meeting Chelsea and considering these topics. So that sparked the general topic, but, some of my kind of themes throughout my work in the theater and, my other films have really dealt with like an imbalance of power and how that kind of, informs everything else about relationships between people and groups. So that mixed with some of my own personal taste, really. I mean, it's hard to write things that you're not interested in. So the place where it became a little bit even more than personal was where it's dealing with sensitive topics, right? It's dealing with women's reproduction. Men have a little part to play, but let's be honest, it's not quite as great, nowhere near as great as women.
Nice to hear you admit that now.
Thanks. And so, actually discussing it with women and having their point of view for this was very important. And then also talking to friends of ours who, have had issues with reproduction. It's a very sensitive topic. It's a taboo topic, actually, in many ways in our country. So, just dealing with that in a sensitive manner, and at the same time, being being a writer, director in entertainment and making a story that people want to see and that's titillating and informs people's actual personal experience. So balancing that was, I think, not challenging, but, it was something I had to really, really appreciate. So I went to women, we deal with some same-sex couples, we deal with people that are having problem reproducing. And I talked to some, I'm not going to name names, but I talked to some, friends of mine who'd gone through this kind of therapy and what that meant, and just wanted to handle it with a little more sensitive hand than usually people do in like a thriller slash, you know, horror slash Etsy. And actually Chelsea's being a little shy about it, but you know, dealing with doctors can be quite terrifying. You know, I have physicians in my family, and you know, there's just an inherent power imbalance there. And we see this coming up, you know, time and time again with, you know, some of these like the, you know, NASA and the, you know, US gymnastics, and actually even our experience, you know, not to name names or throw anybody in their bus, but, you know, we had two children, both born through C-section, and both very different experiences. You know, the one was kind of an emergency, and so, you know, we felt was very warranted. And the second, you know, to this day, we still don't really believe was quite necessary. And I think what's happened is today people, it used to be natural birth was the, you know, the predominant method of delivery, but now I suspect C-sections, you know, a surgical invasive procedure with an operating room and, you know, like anesthesia and a whole team there is kind of the go-to for delivering a baby. There's something about that that just doesn't feel right. And so, you know, that's part of what I think makes it personal that maybe Chelsea, you don't have to speak of, but, you know, it's kind of related to the story.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind. I did really feel like, to be honest, that like the second C-section, like I was kind of bullied into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that there's, I believe there's like a greater concern if you've already had one, so maybe that was part of it. But yeah, I mean, it does feel like surgery is usually the kind of go-to over maybe weighing out, and there are, you know, obviously risks and concerns and things like that that have to be balanced, but it is very difficult, especially when you know, you're worried about not only you but your baby's life, and you're like trying to make an informed decision, and you can't really in that situation. That's a very tough decision to be like, okay, so what do you want to do? Do you want to risk your baby's life, or do you want to just get it out? And you're like, well, when you put it like that. So.
Exactly. And it's so you know, kind of funny that you mentioned that, and you know that you know, this might happen in the movie, but you know, we had a moment like that.
No spoilers.
And that's when I was like, okay, we're having another C-section for sure. You know, I'm signing, we're doing it. When they talk about your baby, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like, to your point also, I think you have to like go and find programs that kind of do their best to promote a unmedicated vaginal birth. It's like a very difficult thing to find, I believe.
Yeah, a holistic kind of center. Yeah, and
yeah,
a lot of people use doulas, and it's interesting. You know, I don't say that I'm going to tackle this whole big topic in this film, you know, but you're talking about kind of some of the inspiration and some of the way it tied into our personal life. So it's an interesting topic that I think it can be delved into even further in additional works.
For sure. And quick plug, I don't know if you've seen the movie The Business of Birth, but I saw that years ago, and that was a fascinating documentary. It used to be on Netflix. I don't know where it is now, but it kind of speaks to the things that you were worried about, where it's like this kind of emphasis on C-sections and on medical procedures versus other forms of birth, and kind of how that has shifted in the last 50 years or so.
Oh yeah.
Sounds very accurate. The Business of Birth.
Exactly. That's the title. There's a very specific title. So I know that this was also, this is a big project probably for you both to take on, because this is your first foray into feature length, for you, Hamza, directing, and for you, Chelsea, producing. What was that like, making the jump? I mean, was it exciting? Was it concerning? Maybe a little bit of both. Like it's a much bigger endeavor to take on a full movie.
It was like, honestly, it was all of those things, sometimes all at once. It was honestly, like, I think it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Like, I had helped with producing some of the other shorter films, which always felt like fun, like, exciting, everything. I think just dealing with having like investors and having like real money on the line, and COVID as well. So like people's health and like, this kind of like opportunity and like, are we going to make our day? Are we going to, go over schedule? Like it was hard.
You did great, though.
It was hard.
She did great. I mean, I wasn't joking when I said I couldn't have done it without her. It was actually doing this as a husband and wife team was the only way I think it was possible, because there was so much integration, so much communication needed, and it was such a 24/7 because we were trying to raise funds for, a while, and then COVID happened, and then
Oh,
like
wow.
30% of our budget kind of disappeared overnight. So then we had to do some fancy footwork. Like, do we still want to go for it? Because COVID actually increased the burden of expense, right? We had to find a way to, make everybody safe, build a bubble. And so it was a lot of challenge, not just for our first time, but because of the situation in the world. So thankfully thankfully Chelsea was able to be by my side, and we were able to address these one at a time, and really go through what it takes to do a COVID production. How do you get from, a budget of, X amount and lose 30%, and kind of how do you deal with that and still make it happen? But luckily,
we learned a lot, like a lot.
well, yeah, there's a lot of the paperwork aspects, and the things anytime you take investors, it's a whole nother scale of legalities and pressure to deal. But we did what we had promised to do, which is deliver a feature film and get distribution and have it hit the market. So
Yeah, and in this crazy world, that is a huge accomplishment already, especially for your first film. Like that's amazing. And I think it's a really great point that you mentioned you couldn't have done it without Chelsea, because my understanding of indie films is it is just a series of fires that you have to deal with like nonstop, and the fact that you both kind of know your strengths and weaknesses and what you're good at and what maybe you should move the other people, move to each other. I think that probably helped a lot, being able to kind of like assess the situation. They're like, okay, well, this is probably something you should do, there's something I should do, or like you should do this, but I can help you, like if needed. Like that kind of stuff is invaluable when you're dealing with the pressures and the time limits and the budgetary issues that you all were dealing with.
Yeah, we had what we called like a war room of just like paperwork and things like in different things in process that we just go to, and we were kind of taking it like the war. But I think
it is sort of a campaign. We were lucky that we had been together, produced some play, some theater, some shorts, so we knew the general landscape and we knew what we needed. It's just the scale of it, right? And kind of the more professional equipment, and the post-production process was much, much longer. We shot for like a month. We're in post for like a year and a half, and then distribution and delivery and all of those kind of wrinkles that you don't really have to deal with when you have a short and you're kind of self-distributing it through, Amazon Prime or any of these other locations.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad that you're bringing this up, because when I first saw this, I was like, oh, I wonder if this was just an excuse to like have a lovely outdoor trip during COVID. But it sounds like that was maybe a byproduct of this insanely stressful situation that you were.
It was not very lovely for us. We did try to make it lovely for the cast. I hope so. We tried to really put some emphasis on the catering, had like a chef. A lot of times on film shoots, the food can be sort of substandard, wine every night. Since we had a bubble, we rented a summer camp, and basically the whole cast and crew was on like a 50-acre spread with like bonfires every night. And
that's amazing.
I'm not trying to make it too idyllic, but they had like a game room, the camera department,
movie nights, and like
yeah, exactly. So it was like a little bit of
and we enjoyed that too, like after hours, like after our 14-hour like shoot day, we can
you sat around the fire and passed out essentially.
You have to enjoy people. Yeah, I mean, I had to like make sure that the trash gets taken out, and there's a lot of stuff you do with an indie budget that maybe a writer director would not do on like a big budget film. So I'm happy to mow the grass and take out the trash and do all this stuff that let the PAs, let everybody kind of have their night, just to make it happen.
God, it sounds like you're the parent, right? Like you're like, oh, this stuff has to get done, or else the house is gonna fall down.
I did feel like that sometimes, but you're kind of in a closed environment. There are personal issues and things pop up, and it's some minor drama. But overall, I think everybody was really lovely, and it was a pleasure, and thankfully we were able to get it completed and get what we needed to get done, and nobody got hurt and nobody got sick.
And we did have cast that had so much fun, like that they asked to stay additional days, like even after they wrapped. So
that is always a good sign. I've talked to a decent number of people who made films during the pandemic, and a lot of people said, like it was stressful at first, like when you're signing on for it, but then when you got there and you were like able to kind of be in that bubble and see people and interact with people. It was like a very nice feeling to finally be outside with people and be able to like take the mask off, because you knew everyone had their protocols and everyone was staying safe. Like a lot of people said, like it was great, because then you were finally kind of back to normal in this weird small project isolated bubble normal, but still like a type of normal.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that the cast and crew like had like more of a bond because of that, like at that point in, what we were all going through in 2020.
The location
and
also
being able
helped.
to be creative too.
Yeah, instead of just being stuck, like I think some of them really enjoyed the opportunity to make some art and
be in the Catskills.
Yeah, with the location. I mean, doing this in, let's say there was a few days in New York, but doing this all in New York and having a bubble would have been a little more difficult, I think. You're still kind of compressed. Where are you going to just stay in your hotel room? How are you going to interact? You got to go to the deli. So taking people away into this environment, where people go for recreation, anyway, that's what it's there for. And we just get to make some art during the day.
Yeah, and then there were pool days, there was yoga, like it was all for the film. So it seems like
that's true.
Okay, can I be cast in the next movie?
Maybe. I didn't know are you forward, David?
No, I'm not. I'm sadly
camera skills.
No camera skills, no camera skills. I can talk. That's all I can do.
Well, that's basically what acting is, I think. The majority of it.
Yeah, pretty much. So speaking of the performers in this movie, like, how did you get your cast? It was kind of I love that you had, I would say like a diverse cast, because it was you had different types of couples, you had people in different situations. Like, where did you get them, and how did you kind of gather this eclectic group? Had you worked with them before, or was this just kind of all like a casting and call type of situation?
Yeah, so some of them I had worked with before, like somebody, Jared had been the lead in one of the plays I had written, and some of the other cast I had relationships with, but the majority, Victorya Brandart, she was somebody that I had worked with in one of my acting groups. And so I would say there was a couple of key kind of tent poles that I brought in, like, okay, Jared's going to be great as Steve, so let's just call him, get that done. You kind of check them off. But the majority of them were, like kind of an open casting call, with all the usual services and auditions. And, it was a little more challenging because, again, you've got COVID. Everybody's kind of like, in these bubbles, but we're able to do Zoom auditions and kind of do multiple readings. And then, with our budget, we sort of had some cast changes too, but some of the people that we originally slated to work with, because of the budget and kind of not quite being able to pull off the SAG. I mean, we were actually starting to shoot by the time they even got the paperwork to us. So we just kind of had to go, non-union on the cast side and just make it happen. So it changed, it evolved some of the cast, but I think overall, everybody's performances were great. I'm not unhappy with anybody, in the main ensemble and what they did. I mean, everybody worked very hard and they delivered what they needed to do.
Yeah, for sure. And I did want to mention, one person, there was this yogi instructor that was like, oh, wow, they just like got this person for eye candy. Like he's just strutting around shirtless. And I was like, oh, wait, I see where they got him. And I got to say, the costume designer didn't do a really good job, or you were just, working for budget, because he basically had no costume during that entire scene.
So, okay, that was actually an optional scene, right?
If I had a body like that, I would put that in every movie as well. So I completely understand.
No, well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's I appreciate that. Just my little vanity's tickled. But we did not know if we would have time for that scene. But I needed some more elements to show the therapeutic element, right? We have the storyline, we have the emotional story, we have the VFX, we have kind of the danger, if you will. But just to show some of what the fun was, I wanted to do like maybe a massage session or, things like that. And we just, because it's an indie, because of our budget, we had to compress so much of the shoot that this was like an optional scene at the end of the day, but we got our main shots in. And then we had, it was like 30 minutes, 45 minutes for one more setup. And I was like, guys, what do you think? I was really lucky in that the cast, they really trusted me. They were really game to try this stuff. We had, the sun was kind of like dropping. We had 45 minutes or 30 minutes to get this shot. Spike, our cinematographer, was like, all right, let's go for it. So we just hurriedly built that. And then it was it was basically the dialogue was, very sparse, so that helped. And then
and also like the opportunities for improv in that scene like are some of my favorite. Like, you know. So.
Yeah, actually, some of that dialogue is definitely improvised. I can't take credit for that. But the cast was great. That actually gelling together in the bubble made them very natural towards each other. So they were able to interact and really inhabit those roles. So it was just a kind of a spur of the moment. We had it planned, but we didn't know if we'd get the time to do it. And then we were able to get it done in like a very, very short period of time.
That's perfect. I mean, it's just like you got the time. You're like, hey, we've got this for 20 more minutes. Let's just go do it. Let's shoot that
guerrilla
shot.
filmmaking, right? We got this location for 45 minutes. Well, get you guys down to do it. Yeah, I think we can get it.
Yeah, and I think those were important scenes as well too. Like you said, show the therapeutic aspect, but also kind of show, why people might stay here, right? Like if all you see are these like negative associations, like you can understand a little bit why people might stay here, but then if you show some more positive stuff, you're like, okay, well maybe it's balanced. It's a balanced experience. So so I know we have limited time, so I'm gonna switch. I call it the lightning round. There's very lightweight questions about the film. I want to see how your experiences map to things that happen in the film. You can feel free not to answer them. I will not be offended. I mean, you could both answer as well. It's up to you. Whoever feels called to answer, feel free to answer. But yeah, like I said, you can choose. You can feel free not to answer. I will not be offended, but I try to keep them very answerable. The first question is, do you have a go-to breakfast that you make? In the movie, Ignacyo's character fried up some omelets for his wife to because she was feeling bad. Do you have like a hangover breakfast, or maybe like a go-to breakfast that you make?
I can really only make pigs in a blanket, or eggs in a blanket. What about you?
Eggs in a frame.
Eggs in a frame.
I think we would just call the diner, right?
in a pinch.
Yeah, like if it's a hangover situation.
Indeed.
Yeah, that is a very good solution as well. Second question, and I think I probably know the answer to this, is do you do yoga? I assume that you do, Hamza. I don't know if your wife does as well.
Do you know what? I love yoga, but I'm not very good at it.
Same.
The first person to do yoga. She did it like before he was trendy, when you're like 14 or something, right?
I've always liked it, but my favorite position is corpse pose, when you're just like laying your head. I'm really good at that one.
That is the best position, to be sure. you just coming to terms with your mind and body, right? That's part of the process.
Definitely the ideal ending.
So speak on the same line. How do you take care of your mind and body? Like, how do you de-stress? How do you kind of get through your day? If you're having a bad day, how do you help yourself?
Well, I think for me, it's just really important to have time to myself. It's that simple. Just
3 hungry boys running around. Yeah.
So yeah, just just to being by myself for 10 minutes or whatever.
That is a good answer. I take care of myself by leaving. Get down there.
I need a minute.
Hamza, what about you? Do you have any sort of routine?
I wish I had a stress. I guess exercise a little bit, just to kind of take the edge off. But a little bit of meditation practice. My exercise between a little bit of high intensity and a little bit of yoga, and that's pretty much all the time, unfortunately, I have.
It's good to get to carve that time out, right? Like I always feel like, oh gosh, I don't want to exercise, and when you finally do, you're like, okay, now I feel better. But
yes,
always tough
30
to
minutes at least, right?
Yeah, for sure. When was your last smoothie?
My last smoothie?
I guess the question, do you drink smoothies? I guess that could be a question as well, because there are a lot of smoothies in this film.
Oh man, there were a lot of smoothies in this film. Those smoothies were more inspired by some of the smoothies I used to drink in my 20s. But recently, I think oh man, I don't know. Why don't you answer? I think
I'm trying to think. I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I did have. I think I had one at the outlet mall or something. As a drink, but
right, or at the fair. Did we have one at the fair?
No, I don't think that was a smoothie. That was just one of those. Oh my god, have you had those fair drinks? They just rot your gut,
Oh, it's fried. Yeah, I try not to, but I have before. Or they have it's like a milkshake with a hamburger skewered in there. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds cool. Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, if you're not a smoothie person, that's fine. Have you ever taken? So there's a scene in this film early on when the Ignacyo's character gets like herbal tea. Like, have you ever taken like an herbal remedy to try to calm your body or something like that? Are you maybe a tea person or some other like holistic type medicine?
Yeah, we drink quite a bit of tea, I would say. Although Chelsea also has her little addiction to coffee.
I think we all do, especially if you've got kids. I think everyone has an addiction to
And,
coffee.
and if you're producing film,
Yeah,
then you
That's
are.
true. That's true. We did drink a lot of coffee then. It's
Um,
lifeblood.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like I love tea and
Peppermint,
yeah,
and chai. Yeah.
like I think like over the years we've tried a lot of herbal remedies, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Next question is, where would your ideal retreat be? Like, where would you like to go if you wanted to have a, I don't know, a romantic retreat or a personal mind and body retreat? Where would you go?
I've been trying to go to the Vipassana, the like 10-day silent retreat for like 10 years and just have not been able to find that 2-week window to drop everything and go and just be on a silent retreat. So it would be cool if one day I could somehow, with wife, kids, film, career, be able to pull that off. But I guess as I was like location, what do you think? What would be an ideal location? I guess romantic, that would be something I'd be interested in. What would be a good romantic retreat?
Maybe somewhere like we visited a World Heritage site a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah,
And
maybe another one.
That was like really like, just like somewhere like out of our world, like
Sure, like a Turkey and or
Right,
Egypt or Greece trip. Yeah.
Those would be awesome. And the answer could just be like, I love my kids, but anywhere that my kids are not, that would be a great retreat, because I completely understand.
Yeah, let's definitely destroy any plans for travel for a while.
Where is the I guess most remote place you have been to or gotten away to?
I think it's Gilgit, right?
Oh yeah, this little, like the foothills of the Himalayas, basically.
That does sound very remote.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Did you climb up a little bit, or were you just kind of?
We went to the Whitecaps. We made sure that we got the experience. Because of the weather and the timing, we didn't actually get to go like right to like Nanga Parbat or any of like the main 8K peaks, which I've always sort of fanboyed about. Not climbing, or maybe fantasize about climbing, but actually being on the feet.
Not to take away from this was like panoramic, and it was just like, I couldn't believe we were in the Himalayas. I thought we must be like in like the Alps or like something.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful.
Yeah, it's really wonderful.
That sounds awesome.
We were on like horseback. There's like actually
Nobody
way
there
to get there.
Yeah.
You're
really out there. Yeah.
That sounds awesome. And then to bookend that question, what is the worst vacation or getaway you have been on? Or maybe you don't take bad vacations. Maybe you plan better. I don't know.
I'm trying to think.
Vacations
pretty good.
Yeah, we've all had pretty good. I mean, you can look at the good side or the bad side of anything, right? If you get to take a vacation, you should I just feel like you should be grateful for that opportunity. How many people in this world don't even have like hot water to shower in, or like a safe place to sleep? So being able to take a vacation is a luxury I don't think my parents' generation really had, and a lot of people in this world probably still don't.
Yeah, for sure. It's all about perspective. I mean, we took a trip one time to Portugal, and like our hotel room in the middle of the night, the water from above was like leaking down one day into our room, and we called, they fixed it, and like that could have been a bad experience. Like, hey, we're in Portugal, like whatever, we're just gonna go outside and enjoy.
Exactly.
So it's all about perspective.
Yeah.
So the film is coming out on Blu-ray, DVD, digital, and on demand on March 22nd, 2022. You are both promoting it after a long and difficult journey getting it made and distributed. I imagine you both have other projects in mind, other things you want to work on. Is there anything that people can look for after the Institute, or are you just going to take a nice vacation or take a nice break and then regroup after?
Yeah, I mean, I have a ton. I've gotten the entirety of my work since I started writing, scripts at like 14 is, probably close to 100 different projects of various scale. So I have a couple of ones that are sort of hotter than others, and then I'm just kind of like polishing the scripts before getting right into this, so a couple of TV shows, a couple of scripts, one in particular that I'm just finalizing. And then as soon as this process is done and the Institute is kind of freestanding on its own, I'm going to jump into. Yeah.
Very cool. And Chelsea, are you going to be joining him on this journey, or is this one that he's like, not this time?
Well, we have like
I think I'm too deep in.
Yeah, you've been too deep. You can't leave now. So yeah, one is like a more big budget, kind of a thriller, more of a cybercrime thriller, and then the other is an indie kind of my take, Hamza's take on a heist movie. So that's going to be like an indie that we can actually sort of do ourselves, where the other one is definitely like a studio level film.
Very cool. Well, I look forward to both of them. And thank you so much for joining me. This is Hamza Zaman and Chelsea Roth from the Institute, which is coming to Blu-ray, DVD, digital, and on-demand on March 22nd, 2022. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure, David.
That was Hamza Zaman and Chelsea Roth talking about the Institute, which is coming to Blu-ray, DVD, and digital and on-demand platforms on March 22nd, 2022. If you like this interview, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. And please check out my other content. I've got reviews, interviews, unboxing videos, and recommendations. Thank you.